What's up, guys, and welcome to Act 1, Scene 1 of our Romeo and Juliet analysis series. Alright, so we all know that Act 1, Scene 1 is not actually the very first page of Romeo and Juliet. There is a prologue. Now, the prologue is so short that we were thinking about skipping it entirely, but I am gonna include a little bit of analysis about the prologue, just 2 points that I think are interesting for you to be able to talk about, for you to be able to learn. The very first one is that the prologue itself is actually using a sonnet rhyme scheme. So there are many different rhyme schemes, and it is specifically using the A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G rhyme scheme. Now, what you're gonna notice is that everything there seems to rhyme. They all check out except for love and remove. So this is really interesting. The question is, are the words love and removed, were they actually used in a different way, pronunciated in a different way in the past, or did Shakespeare just mess up? And the answer can be found from David Crystal. So if you actually search David Crystal on YouTube, you'll find a video where he says that Shakespeare actually rhymed love with prov. And so you know right away that it's not loove and remove. It is the fact that it is love, and the word remove was used in pronunciation as remove. So it'd be love and remove in the same way how love rhymed with prov. So Shakespeare did not make a mistake. It was simply a different way in which people were rhyming, which is an interesting thing for you to know. And if you talk about it, you're definitely gonna come off like a nerd. So good for you. And the second point that I want you to focus on is this. The entire story, we already know, is about love. But notice the focus here. We see a lot of focus on violence. There is a lot of focus on violence. So this coupling of love and violence is a running theme. It is something that recurs it's an element that recurs so many times, you might as well call it a motif. That's what a motif is, right? When you have an element or an event that runs through the scene recurringly many times. Love and violence is interwoven throughout this play. So that's the second point that I wanted you to remember when it comes to the prologue. All right, so let us start off with Act 1, Scene 1 analysis now. We start off right away with one of my most not favorite moments, which was just Gregory and Samson talking at lengths. It was actually one of the most demotivating situations I was ever in when I had to read Romeo and Juliet, because they just seemed to be babbling on and on about something that wasn't really important. But I did end up later on down the road finding a couple of interesting things that I find important about the situation as they are babbling. The first one is this. They make a ton of sexual references. And this is something that you're gonna figure out while you read Romeo and Juliet. While the story is a really interesting one, and the lessons to be learned are ones that can easily be learned at a young age, high school and even younger than high school, it isn't one that is entirely appropriate for all ages if you look at every single word that Shakespeare wrote. Because in this play, and actually in many Shakespeare plays, there are many inappropriate things that are being said in a sexual way. You're gonna find many characters that say very sexually inappropriate things. Samson and Gregory are just two of them in the entire play. The second thing, and probably the more important thing that I want you to really pay attention to, is the fact that they especially when it comes to, like, is it okay to bite my thumb at that person? It's like, oh no, am I abiding by the law or not? This idea of biting their thumb, which is an insult, is kind of like flipping a middle finger at somebody nowadays. This idea of insulting someone in that way. Why is it the case that Shakespeare adds in this element of one of them asking the other, hey, is it of the law for me to do this? Well, the reason is this. He wants to immediately create a situation where there is something greater than just your preference in this world and you need to follow it. He wants to create what I would simply put it as a custom. And he wants to create customs to be kind of boundaries that you simply cannot go outside of. And if he creates such a situation, then when he introduces the situation of love between Romeo and Juliet, who are clearly not supposed to be lovers, when you read the play, you'll find out they really shouldn't be lovers because of the custom, because of the situation that they're in. And for them to still love becomes an interesting story. But if we started off with kind of the situation that we live in nowadays, especially in North America, where we would say, hey, if you love her, what's the problem? If you started off with that being the custom, then the story wouldn't be interesting. So Shakespeare starts off right away in the prologue by saying, hey, there are two families that hate each other. That's the custom, guys. It's a serious thing. And then right away, he goes into Samson and Gregory, and even Samson and Gregory, who kind of come off as slightly dumb people, even they have to care about the rules, the laws, the customs of the environment in which they are in, because they're supposed to play within the lines. They're not supposed to go outside of it. And then we're going to find out later on that Romeo and Juliet decide to go outside of those lines, which becomes that jaw-dropping, oh my god moment where you realize, wow, they're not supposed to love each other. Why are they loving each other? That's so interesting. Or at least I hope you find it interesting. So again, that's just Shakespeare just really being smart about creating a situation where he's going to be able to make a fun story out of a story that's going to happen anyway, creating a context in which the same love story becomes more interesting and more unique. Without further ado, let us jump into our very first question. Who starts the fight in the first scene between the Capulets and the Montagues? And the answer is actually B. It is not Montague and Capulet. They themselves do not start the fight. They go into the fight later on. It is actually the servants that start the fight. So this is a little bit interesting because you quickly find out, if you read a lot of articles out there, scholars are actually constantly talking about how Shakespeare seems to have made Romeo and Juliet a play that involves lower class citizens a little bit more than some of the other plays might, because the other plays might have a royal family involved, and it mostly has to do with just the royal family. But he gives a little bit more of an important and more of an interesting role to the lower class citizens, namely the servants or whatnot. And the last thing that I want you guys to focus on is Shakespeare's use of oxymorons. And you're probably thinking like, what? An oxymoron is when you use words that are seemingly contradictory in nature, very close to each other. So for example, you see Romeo say, oh, brawling love. Brawling meaning kind of fighting or vicious, kind of violent. And love, well, you already know what love means. So again, violence and love, that was something that I said earlier on. But it's not just brawling love that's an oxymoron that Romeo refers to. He actually also says, oh, heavy lightness. Heavy lightness, that's kind of a basic one, isn't it? He also says, she is rich in beauty, only poor that when she dies, with beauty dies her store. And if you think about what he says there, it's not the most insightful thing to be saying. And it's pretty clear from everything that Shakespeare wrote, his level of writing skills is way higher than that. So what he's trying to communicate to us here is that Romeo is at a stage where he wants to be poetic. He wants to be this lover, this hopeless romantic, so to speak. And probably more importantly, that he's in love with the idea of being in love. Like you must have that friend who wants to be in love, and you're looking at the person thinking like, you love the idea of being in love more than loving that guy or loving that girl. Like you literally love the idea of being in love. And that is the exact situation that you will find Romeo to be in throughout the whole play. Alright guys, so that is the end of Act 1, Scene 1. Of course, if you liked the video, then press the like button, hit the subscribe, share it with a friend, and we will see you guys in Act 1, Scene 2 of our Romeo and Juliet series.